The series we've all had circled for months now is finally here. Let's talk about it. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, September 19th, 2025. This is Teddy Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. All right, it's time. The Mariners are down in Houston for the biggest series of the regular season. The M's and Astros, of course, are tied atop the AL West at 84 and 69 apiece. They're tied in their season series as well at 5-5. So something has to give this weekend. And while neither team can technically clinch the AL West this weekend, a series win for either team would put them in the driver's seat for the division crown with 6 games to go. So we'll get into the specifics of the series in segment 2. We'll also tell you what to keep an eye on around the league in segment 3. But to kick things off, Colby, just tell me your overarching thoughts heading into this one.
I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to say this is the most important regular season series in the history of the franchise. And even if you want to be, contrarian there and say, no, it's not. I went back and I looked, and I think the only thing that comes close to this series, I had to go all the way back to 2000, where the Mariners went down to Anaheim to play the Angels in a 3-game series. And that what ended up happening is they needed to win game 162 to get into the playoffs that year. And they did, they won it. And they got in with 92 wins over the Cleveland Guardians at 91 wins. So they needed that win to get in, and they got it. So that was probably the biggest series before this. And that was to get in as a wild card. So this is to, again, give yourself a leg up on the division. If you sweep, or if the Astros sweep you, the division is over. Like, it is done. Maybe not statistically, but it is over. So sweeping on either side is it's over. Your season's over. You're focused on the wild card at that point. So it is that big. But like you mentioned, they're tied 5-5 in the season matchup. They're tied record wise. So they're just basically at 0-0 all the way around. So the winner of this series is going to have the tiebreaker. Not only will they have a 1-game lead, they also have the tiebreaker on top of it. So, like, the stakes couldn't be higher. This is the most important series in terms of regular season series. If it's not number 1, it's top 3 or 4 in the entire history of the franchise. So, it's one of those things. This is a playoff series. Yep. We wanted playoff baseball. Wake up, you're getting it. This is a playoff series, and it needs to be managed like it is. We'll see if Dan Wilson is willing to do that. I think he probably will be, but that is the importance of the series. You have a team in Houston who has been at the top of the ladder in this division for pretty much a decade. I think the only year they haven't won the division was in 2020, which doesn't really count for obvious reasons. And while Texas has, knocked them out of the playoffs recently, and they were a first round exit last year, like, this is the Astros division. They have run this thing for a decade. And right now, you really, for the last 4 or 5 years, you have been the best consistent challenger to that title. So you are the usurper. You are trying to take their crown from them, and they are trying desperately to hold on to it, because when you give an inch, that's all it takes for your entire empire to crumble. And so they're protecting their turf. They're in their home ballpark, trying to protect the legacy of their team and of this specific run, trying to maintain dominance over the American League West. And while the Mariners have played very well against the Astros and have won season series a couple times here in the last 3 years, they have not quite been able to slay the dragon over 162 games. And they have that opportunity to do that today. Like, the stakes could not be higher for either side. So it is, just in terms of pure baseball, this is as good as it gets for regular season baseball. Like, if you're not a fan of either of these teams, you would probably be circling this series and being like, I'm going to watch that, because that is peak regular season baseball. The only way it gets better is if this was game 163, and they don't do those anymore. So, like, it doesn't get any better. The stakes can't get any higher for a regular season series. And one of these teams is going to walk out of this weekend with a great position, and not only in great position to win the American League West, but to also get a bye and get a direct path to the ALDS, which could be huge, especially in this American League where anybody can win it. Anybody can win this American League right now. And so to only have to win, 11 games, to only have to win 7 games to get to the World Series instead of having to win 9 is huge. Like that could be the difference. So everything's on the line. The stakes can't get higher. This is it. This is what all those clunkers you played in July and in June, and this is what it all led to. And the 10-game win streak, and the Geno trade and the Naylor trade, like all of that led up to this. This is what you make those moves for. This is what you grind out those slow days in spring training for. And this is what we as fans sit in April, and when they're playing in Minnesota and it's 15 degrees and they're down 6-0 in the 8th. Like, you do all that, you make all those sacrifices to get to this spot right here. And in the next 27 innings, at least, we're going to find out. We're going to find out who the better team is. And it all comes down to this. I mean, there really is, you can't ask for anything more, but it's a huge opportunity. And, I think 2022 taught us anything is you don't really know when these opportunities are going to come again. You can't take them for granted and think like, oh, well, they'll get back here, shortly if they don't get it this time. Maybe not, but maybe not. It's not a guarantee. Yeah. So, you're facing an Astros team that just swept the Rangers. You've won 11 of your last 12. You're both playing good ball recently. They're not going to have Yordan Alvarez, we think. They are going to have Isaac Paredes, who that should underline the importance of the series. Isaac Paredes is coming off of a massive hamstring tear, and he's being thrown into the lineup today without a rehab assignment. Like, he's got, 14 at-bats like against live.
That's what a spot said. Yeah, that's what a spot said on the on Wednesday.
Yeah. So this is best foot forward for both teams as best as they possibly can right now. And that just speaks to how, this game, how the series means everything. And you can see that just from the way that both teams decided to line up their pitching matchups. It was not lined up like this originally. They had to they had to move guys around a little bit a few weeks ago to make sure that they get this lineup and get this group of pitchers going against each other. So, I mean, it's great. Like, it is a little bit like Super Bowl, what was that, 49 Seahawks Patriots? Is that 49? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, it's an all-time great game. Like, this is going to be a fantastic series. But if you're on the losing side of it, you're probably never going to want to think about it again. So it has, the stakes aren't quite that high because that was a Super Bowl, and this is just, games 154 through 156 or whatever. Like, but it's up there. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't get any bigger than this. And if you're not a little bit nervous about that, if you're not a little bit panicked about that, when the Mariners are down 1-0 in the third inning tonight, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know how you're consuming baseball if you're not both, equally excited, but also terrified of the outcome of the series.
Yeah. Look, we all know the history and the storyline setting into this one. You talked about it a little bit. I mean, it's little brother versus big brother. It's the team you and everyone else in the AL West have been trying to put to bed for almost a decade now. And like you said, this is the biggest regular season series the Mariners have played in at least something like 25 years. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of pressure and anxiety that comes with that. But look, in the end, the road doesn't stop with the Astros. This isn't the finish line. The Astros, at the end of the day, they're just another team in the way of where you ultimately want to go. Just like the Rockies are going to be, just like the Dodgers are going to be, and whoever, you would face in October if you get there. So to me, this series, isn't really about proving anything to a certain team or a certain fan base or the division as a whole or whatever. To me, it's just another crucial stepping stone towards winning a championship. And if you want to win it all, you got to win games and series like this. And like you said, it's going to be a great series. You know, you got your best guys against their best guys. It all wraps up on national television. It's the only baseball game that's going to be going on Sunday night. This is real ball. And, you know, I think this club has what it takes to meet the moment, you know, to seize the moment. And I hope they do. All right, so let's dive into the specifics of this series. Let's get into the pitching matchups, all that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Zippix. This episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligram and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use the promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 years old or older to order. Warning. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com. Promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix Toothpicks. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. For instant reactions following every Mariners game, be sure to tune into the Mariners postcast with Anderson Hurst and Christopher Crawford, available on both the Locked On Mariners YouTube and podcast feeds. So whichever team wins this series is at least going to walk away from it with essentially a 2-game lead because of the tiebreaker. It would be 1 game in the standings, but then, you know, +1 because of the tiebreaker, or potentially 4 games if they sweep with the tiebreaker. And again, these two teams, they're throwing their best guys against one another. For the Astros, it's Hunter Brown tonight against Brian Wu, and then Framber Valdez against George Kirby, and then Jason Alexander against Logan Gilbert. And, you know, like you mentioned, Isaac Paredes is back. He's had only 14 live at-bats and live BP, maybe more, but that's what Espada said on Wednesday. Yordan Alvarez is probably going to be the corresponding move there, if I had to guess. They're trying to, you know, play mum on this thing for whatever reason, but it's, I mean, you look at the freeze frame of Yordan's injury, like it's not good.
The fact that they've already said he's going to be out a while, but they still haven't put him on the IL. And yeah, it's the posturing of like, oh, you don't know who we have available to you. Like the Mariners don't already have a game plan for Yordan Alvarez anyways, but yeah, it's posturing right now. But yeah, I mean, you watch that video, you pretty much read between the lines of what's being said. Yordan's probably not coming back this year, at least not in the regular season.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how the Astros construct their lineup, because someone that's hitting right now is probably going to get left out. I assume Paredes is going to be the DH.
Yeah.
Which probably means Victor Caratini is going on the bench, or Yanner Diaz is going on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, last time the Mariners saw Houston, Caratini was the biggest threat in the entire lineup. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, somebody's going to have to find the bench here.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, a lot has changed with this roster, just like a lot has changed with the Mariners roster since these two teams last saw one another. You know, now it's Jesus Sanchez, it's Carlos Correa's back, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got Ramon Arias on the bench. Yep. They don't have Josh Hader in their bullpen anymore.
Right.
You know, he's hurt. Craig Kimbrell is now in that bullpen, though. And the Astros, they haven't seen Eugenio Suarez. They haven't seen Josh Naylor.
Oh.
So
don't forget Caleb Ferguson.
And
Luke Jackson.
That's right. And Luke Jackson.
They're not ready to deal with Leo Rivas.
Yeah. So, you know, Does Zach Cole get left on the bench so they can move Altuve to the outfield and Paredes plays on the field? Like, I assume Paredes is only going to DH, but maybe in order for them to make all of this work and get their 9 best offensive players in the lineup, maybe they force him out there. I mean, they're forcing him to play in the series in general with no rehab assignment, and him, having a plasma injection instead of having season-ending surgery. Like, so who knows? Maybe they force him out there. But yeah, it's Jake Myers, it's Altuve, it's Jeremy Pena, it's Christian Walker. You know the deal with this team. So Brian Wu, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, all going to have to be at their best in this one.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a break in this lineup. They got guys that can come off the bench to play matchups as well. And thankfully, at the very least, like we talked about yesterday, this Mariners bullpen in pretty good shape. Gabe Spire is not going to be available tonight. We'll see about if he's available tomorrow, but there also aren't many opportunities to line up. And, if they bring him in against Jesus Sanchez, they're just going to pinch hit Cam Smith. Or they're going to pinch hit, Dubon.
Yeah, the absence of Jordan kind of makes Spire's importance here a little bit lower. Now, I still trust Spire against righties. So, if it's, hey, let's force him to go to the bench early by bringing in Spire here and all that, like, fine. I still trust Spire to get out Dubon and Cam Smith for the most part. But yeah, I mean, the absence of Jordan in the middle of that lineup kind of makes planning your bullpen a little simpler. But it doesn't make it easier. It just simplifies things a little bit for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the pitching matchups are incredible. These lineups are great. For the Mariners, you need to get to this Astros bullpen. They've been incredibly shaky. Brian Abreu has been especially shaky trying to close out games. I mean, if you watch the Rangers Astros series, you know that firsthand. Especially with the way that ninth inning went and that 6-5 game that was at one point 6-1.
Yeah.
So last time you faced Hunter Brown, you got him out of that game in 4 innings.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to have to be the game plan. I don't know how many runs, if any, you're going to get against Hunter Brown tonight.
Yeah.
The focus should be getting him out of the game, just like it was against Cole Reagans the other night. Now, Reagans was obviously on a pitch count. So you kind of knew exactly when he was, when the Royals were going to tap out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much Espada is going to force these guys to go. Because again, this is a playoff series. So maybe Hunter Brown goes over 100 pitches in this one. Maybe Framber goes over 100 pitches in this one. I mean, we saw, Dan Wilson have Luis throw 114 pitches or whatever it was the last time they were down in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. That could be the case for the Mariners too. They have the off day on Monday.
Yep.
To kind of reset everything. So would they push Munoz to pitch in every game in this series? They might, because we're at that time of the year. Again, it is a playoff series. It needs to be managed as such, which means, hey, maybe like for Mitch Garver is going to be in the lineup against Framber on Saturday. We know that. Well, if you chase Framber after 5 and Garver's coming up against, a tough righty, you probably have to be okay pinch hitting, Dom Canzone or Luke Raley for him in the 6th or in the 5th, even. Like, you have to be prepared to do that. You have to be prepared to be like, hey, we're up by 4 in the 6th, or we're up by 2 in the 6th, whatever it is. Like, let's take, Dom Canzone out of this game and get Victor Robles. And even though Canzone has another at bat coming up, we need to play kind of some run prevention here. So let's get our best defense. Let's take, Jorge Polanco out of second base, even though, we're only up by 1 in the 8th. He might get another at bat. He might not. Well, we have to prioritize defense. You have to do that. You have to be, the bullpen has to always be active, right? You can't just sit and wait for a starting pitcher to figure things out. You have to be proactive here. And that is one of my concerns going into the series is Dan Wilson's inexperience in situations like this and his complete failure that we've seen throughout the year in situations managing like this. So we'll see if he steps his game up. It's certainly possible, but these are playoff games. Like, anyway you want to slice it, these are playoff games. And it's a series that you have to win. If you want any shot to win this division, you have to win the series, period.
Yep.
Because you look at what the Astros have coming up after you leave. It's significantly easier than what you have because you still have the Dodgers, who are still trying to hold on to the National League West right now. So, like, you have to win the series, period, end of story. You're not going to gain 2 games on Houston in the last 6. It's not going to happen. So you have to win this series. And whoever wins tonight has such a massive advantage over the weekend that I would venture to say the winner of tonight's game is going to win the American League West. So certainly not a guarantee, right? Obviously, Seattle could lose and they win the next 2, and nobody cares about losing on Friday. I understand that's a possibility, but just because of the advantage you have of managing with 1 game in your back pocket over the weekend cannot be overstated. It's the same thing in the wild card round. Winning in game 1 was so important for Seattle that it afforded them to be aggressive with their bullpen in game 2, even when they were down by 7 or 8. Because they had a win in their back pocket. Also forced the Blue Jays to go to guys earlier than they wanted to take Gausman out when he probably shouldn't have, because they couldn't risk it, because they couldn't blow this game because they had already down a game. That is what winning game 1 affords you. So hopefully the Mariners can get it done tonight. It will not be easy. It never is. But you've beaten Hunter Brown a couple times this year, or well, you should have. You beat him once, and then you should have beat him the other time, and then you blew it. But there is some track record here. You can get this guy out of the game early, put some pressure on him, get to the bullpen early in the series, and wear those guys down for Saturday and Sunday. One other thing I would keep in mind here: Framber Valdez has been, really good overall, and the Mariners kind of hit or miss against Framber. They either really handle him very well, or he'll go 7 scoreless against them. Like, they have the same game plan, and Framber doesn't change his game plan against the Mariners. The Mariners don't change it against Framber, and it's just who executes better. But keep in mind, look at Framber's last 5 starts. He went 4 innings, gave up 5 runs. He went 7 innings, gave up 4 runs. He went 5 innings, gave up 6 runs. Went 7 shutout innings against the Rockies. And then he went 5 innings and gave up 7 runs. In his last 5. So he has been
how easy it is to make him crash out.
Yes, he is kind of George Kirby coded in that way, where if something doesn't go right, he will implode on himself. And I mean, we literally saw it, the famous cross up, against the Yankees. That is what you can do. You can get inside Framber's head. But you have to put pressure on him. You can't, and the Mariners are going to be aggressive with Framber. They're not going to try to work counts. They're going to look for that pitch that's a little bit elevated, and they're going to swing at it. That is what they've always done against Framber Valdez, what they're always going to do. So that Saturday matchup in particular is really interesting, because Framber certainly can, throw 7 scoreless against you. You could also get 5 or 6 off of him and make him have a very short day. So keep that in mind. It really, it's going to come down to the counter of Wu, Kirby, and Logan. And I wish I felt better about Logan. I wish I felt a little bit better about Kirby right now. But it is what it is, and this is where you step up. Like, the year of angst and disappointment surrounding Kirby and Gilbert can largely be wiped away by a couple of really good starts this weekend. So we'll see how it goes. But I really do think the winner of tonight's game is going to win the American League West. Just that advantage of having that game 1 in your back pocket. And I would say, unfortunately, the matchup tonight favors the Astros. So you're going to kind of have to steal one to win this series, or to win the series. But again, it's not 100%. Of course, you could just win the next 2 after tonight and just be fine. Winning the first one and losing the first one and winning the next 2 is certainly better than winning the first one and losing the next 2. It doesn't really matter what order you win the series in, but it does feel like winning tonight is so important. It sets you up so well for the next 2.
You got Wu going tonight.
Right. And that's your best shot. So I think the winner of tonight's game is going to win this series, and therefore is going to win the American League.
And the American League West.
Yes. Well,
maybe the American League too, but
we'll the cross that bridge when we get to it. League.
But I mean, again, if you're this Mariners offense, you just got to be annoying this series. I don't know how many runs you're going to be able to score off of all 3 of these starters, especially Hunter Brown. But, if you're going to have a scoreless inning, or you're going to go up, 3 down, you got to make sure that they earn that, right? You got to take a piece of them with you every single time. Right? If it's a 3 up, 3 down, then it better be a 17 pitch 3-up 3-down.
Right.
Maybe, on the surface, it's like, oh, you messed up an opportunity. You had first and third and 2 outs and you didn't score there. Yeah, but at the very least, you ran that pitch count up. And you got to get into this Houston bullpen. You have to get into this Houston bullpen.
Right. Houston bullpen's still pretty good, but they are struggling a little bit right now.
It's still pretty good, but it is weaker. And,
Yes.
Especially with no Josh Hader there at the back end.
Yep.
It is a lot less daunting than it has been over the last couple of years. So we'll see. All right, so let's wrap things up here and look at the out-of-town scoreboard, what's coming up this weekend, because that's also still a bit important, even though the most important thing is obviously happening down in Houston. We'll go over that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by both PrizePicks and 5-Hour Energy. This episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, easy, and a great way to follow along with football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, folks, it's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power you through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. In golf, is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. So let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard before we get out of here and what's coming up this weekend across the league. First and foremost, I guess we'll find out just how down bad the Tigers are because they're hosting the Braves in what should be a get-right series for them at home. But if that series goes sideways for them, then, yeah, they might be in real trouble. So definitely want to keep an eye on them. And obviously, if you win this series and they lose a couple, you would be at the very least tied and technically have the second seed over them because of the tiebreaker. So definitely want to keep an eye on the Tigers, but you also want to keep an eye on the Guardians in case this series goes sideways, because what you don't want to happen here, if you do lose this series or God forbid get swept by the Astros, you don't want to come out on the other side of it and go, oh no, now we're on the outside looking in the playoff picture. Because if the Guardians sweep the Twins and you get swept, you technically would be out of the playoffs for the moment, because the half game wouldn't be settled yet. From the Guardians standpoint. So even though you have the tiebreaker over them, that you would be on the outside looking in on Monday if those two things happen. Boston and Tampa Bay are playing. That's another kind of like, let's see how down bad this team is right now. So want to keep an eye on them as well, because, on the flip side of the, the Guardians stuff, right? Like, I mean, the Guardians are chasing the Red Sox right now. They're not chasing you. They're chasing the Red Sox at the moment. If you can continue to have that buffer between you and the Guardians, that would be nice. That would, help ease my anxiety at least a little bit as far as making the playoffs goes. So yeah, a lot to keep an eye on. Obviously the thing to most focus on here is this series. And if you win the series or even sweep, I mean, you're in the driver's seat to win the division, and the rest of the stuff doesn't matter except for the Tigers. Like, You're not worried if you win the series / sweep, like, you're not worried about the Guardians or the Red Sox. You're not worried about what any of those teams are doing at that point.
Yeah. So go Mariners, go Rays, go Twins. And that it. I don't think we have to worry about Texas and Kansas City anymore.
No.
Mariners, Astros, Braves, Tigers, Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, Rays. Oh, and Cleveland,
Guardians,
Minnesota.
Yeah.
So there you go. Those are the only games you need to pay attention to. And really the only game you need to pay attention to is the one that your team is playing in, because that is the most important one by a mile.
Yep. If the Twins could just get 1-1 here, though, this weekend, that would put my mind at ease a little bit more. Because there is, like, on top of all the anxiety of this,
the Rocky series, still holding on to a playoff spot.
Yeah, on top of all the anxiety and the pressure just of this series in general, there is like that thing in the back of my mind of like, oh, if this goes sideways and the Guardians continue to stay hot and just keep on winning, then you might have real problems. So yeah, if the Twins could just win one, and hey, they beat the Yankees once, so
almost beat them twice.
Yeah,
scored 9 unanswered runs after trailing by 10. So Twins have not given up. Pablo Lopez on the bump tonight. So yep, wouldn't count them out. But it's really all about you and all that. Like, in terms of the division, you need to win this series, period.
Yep.
In terms of the playoffs, just like if that's your only concern, you cannot get swept.
Yeah, just win one.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure you win one. Yeah.
So we'll see. And we'll see if they get any help. But right now, the only help the Mariners need is from the 28 guys in that clubhouse.
Yeah.
And that starts as we record this in about 6 hours.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day and a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you next time. Peace.